What's guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're interacting to the final episode of Koikimo. This one's titled You're Creepy. Wrapping a full circle back to the base premise of the show. It's disgusting to call this love, right? That's the actual translation of the title. So yeah, we're wrapping up. Second show of the season to wrap up after How Not to Summon the Demon Lord, because that was only a 10-episoder. This one started airing a week early, and for those who are watching in Japan, this is also a week early from when the TV broadcast is, but us streaming service people get it a week early, which is interesting decision. I assume they paid a good deal for that exclusivity. I mean, I'm sure Aniplex and Funimation worked out something good for Cells of Work last season as well, so it's just one of the boons of streaming services, and they're becoming more popular and everything for watching anime. There is no Season 2 announcement yet. I highly doubt there will be one, because as far as I'm aware, this is a full adaptation of the manga, and judging by how we've dealt with some of the side characters, there's not really much more to do with this show, right? Because Ariete and Tamaru have kind of had their stories finished in a way. Ariete very clearly has had hers kind of done. It's like, okay, she's not going to fall in love with Ryo, or she fell in love with Ryo that was in love with someone, and therefore she knows she can't compete, she's too late. Tamaru, I think, is still holding out a little bit, but he shouldn't. He needs to move on, honestly. It'll take some time, obviously, it always does, but I think he needs to recognize that, yeah, it is over. And she's even said as much to his face, Ichika. So, the question really is, what do they do? Because they've got a couple of options here. Do they, because if this is a series finale, and there's not going to be more about it, so they kind of need to wrap it up. Maybe they'll do an OVA with part of the Blu-ray or something. I don't know. An OVA would be kind of fun, although I don't think it'd have any real story implications. It would just be more fun shenanigans with our current cast characters. Maybe ecchi-based. I don't know if this show is really wanting to go the ecchi route. It hasn't really for most of its runtime anyway. So yeah, you got a couple of options. One, they just get together right here and right now. That would be interesting. It would be ballsy. I don't think that's likely, considering the title of You're Creepy, but you never know. Option 2, they wait. I think this one seems likely. They're going to wait until she's of age and finished with school, and it's more socially acceptable. I think that seems more likely, and is what I would kind of expect from the story. Number 3, they recognize that... Number 3, I don't think it's going to happen. They're going to say, and nothing's going to happen. Like, we don't get together, we don't really confront our feelings. I think this show, they're absolutely going to confront their feelings for each other. We even got that very close last episode. But I think they will actually get to that point, at the very least. They'll confess in one way or another to each other. Or at least Ichika will reciprocate and say to Ryo, you know what, I actually do kind of like you. I think I might be in love with you. Whether they then go on to get in a relationship, whether they wait, or whether they kind of just admit that and be like, it's not going to work out. I don't think they're going to go that route with it. I feel like they'd leave it somewhat optimistic of an ending, even if it's open-ended, with the waiting aspect. I think that seems more likely, and honestly, I think that's probably the best option for them. It'll be interesting to say, you know what, fuck the rules. Like, we're in love. We both recognize it. We're both responsible adults. Well, she's not yet, legally, I suppose. Is Japan 18 considered legal adult? Is that where the cutoff point is? Because there's so many laws and stuff to remember worldwide. It's like, well, you've got age of consent laws, but that's not technically all of it, because it's not just like, oh, you've reached age of consent, therefore it's fair game. It's no, there's more complications for it. There's like age ranges and stuff where it's like, okay, now this is acceptable, but if you go a little bit further, it's suddenly not. Society has different views on everything. I mean, this show is a very good example of views on everything. Some people are like, he's being respectful enough for it, go for it. Like, oh no, you can never have this situation. And I think the never is a problem. It's like, well, no, it's not never. I mean, just because most relationships of this type are portrayed in a bad light, because that's the only time you ever hear of them, doesn't mean they actually happen in a good way as well. And if you're concerned about just a 10-year age gap, then what's wrong with you? A lot of age gaps exist in relationships. I come from an age gap relationship. Obviously, they were both... My dad was in his 20s, mum was in her 30s when they got together, so obviously there's no, like, school issues being arose from that, but age gap in itself is not necessarily a bad thing, and there are far bigger age gaps out there. I mean, wasn't Hugh Hefner with someone who was like 50 years difference? 60 years difference? I think it was something like that. So they exist all the time. And at least in this instance, it's not based on a power dynamic. He's not exerting his power as a businessman to necessarily go after her. It's not like that at all. They had a chance encounter. He kind of like felt that giddy sense of love that he's never felt in his life before. And he's just trying to work around it. He is, whilst he has the physicality and life of a 27-year-old, when it comes to love, he very much embodies like the 17-year-old giddy teenager type love. And I think that was very well portrayed in this show. If you don't see that portrayal in the show, you might not be as experienced in romance anime as you might think you are. Just put simply, because you can very easily tell in romance anime the inflections and the motivations of characters and how they approach romances. It's very obvious when an anime is trying to tell you, hey, they're being a dick about this. And if you can't tell that difference, that's where you need to start before you start thinking about the show. But whatever. Entitled to your own opinion, even if it's wrong. But yeah, I'm excited to see where they conclude with this, and hopefully it's going to be good. That's all I hope for. I just hope for a decent conclusion. Not one that's so open-ended that it feels like there needs to be more, but still open-ended enough that they can do more in the future if they want to. Like I said, I don't think they will because the source material's finished. But at least leaving it to a satisfying ending enough, whether it be them together or not. As long as it's satisfying and makes sense for the moment, I'm cool with it. So, I guess we'll see. But we're going to load the episode up here, as per usual. These are time-based format reactions here on YouTube. If you want to see the full picture in picture, you can go to my Patreon down in the description below. £4 a month gets you access to all picture in picture reactions I do on the channel, which is everything from the current seasonal lineup, as well as Patreon request shows such as World Trigger, Symphogeji, and Log Rise Season 2. We also have movie reactions on the channel with I Want to Eat Your Pancreas coming out this Saturday, as voted on by my patrons. I'll be using the YouTube community tab to help poll you guys who are non-patrons to get involved in that as well. You won't be able to directly vote on the movie, but you'll be able to influence what movies end up going onto that list, because I need to put more movies onto that poll eventually, and I'll be using you guys on YouTube community tab to help engage that and see what kind of movies people are interested in, and then we'll see how that affects the Patreon side of things as well. But here on YouTube, we do time-based, so bottom left of the screen you'll see a time for the episode. I count down 3, 2, 1, play. Then play say episode, I say episode, and we should be in sync. Watch this one on Crunchyroll as per usual, since they're the ones who license this series. No intro logos or anything, and we're starting off with what looks like the logo of the show, so I don't know if we're just going to skip the OP or not with this one as well. But you can use the screen flash on my face, the mic, or this by my headset to tell when the scenes are transitioning. That should help you sync it up as well. So, with all that said, let's get into the finale of Koikimo, shall we? In 3, 2, 1, play. Koikimo. Yeah, I think we're skipping the OP this time, which is a shame because I love this OP. He's been avoiding her, right? Yeah. Scalar Press, I mean, yeah. 6 months this has happened over, okay. I mean, that is the natural... But feels anxious doing so. Maybe. But you won't know unless... Rio's just like, fucking calling me, bitch. Got a point. He's been... Oh, creepy. He's been earnest and open with you for 6 months, and... that's... Okay. Something, yeah. Age gap relationship? $5 years, okay. Still thinking about age gaps. Thank you. Yeah, your age, that's the... Hmm. For you right now, yes. That's also true. Hmm. Hmm. Don't we all? That's also true. Mm-hmm. May just disappear. Probably not. Yes. I mean, she's probably spoken with Rio a lot since their first meeting, so it makes sense. I'm supportive at least. She's understanding of her daughter. And putting in effort, why not give him a call? Gonna do it? Gonna answer? Is he gonna answer though? There we go. Hmm. Hmm. What's he gonna say? How's he gonna act? I wonder if that's true. He doesn't. He's just distancing himself. Hmm. Hmm. He's trying to cut off, and yeah. Oh, yo. Yeah, he did not enjoy having to do that. Hmm. Oh shit! Ran into him. Okay. Hmm. Sure about that? Just gonna let him go, or are you gonna put in some effort? Can't help but think when he sees the uniform. the whole McDonald's. Space now. Right, just like, nah, bitch, I'm sorting this. Do you believe that? Yeah? Hmm. Hmm. Okay. So? 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 Yeah, who? Then why hasn't he approached someone like that? If that was the case, why would he be spending time with you? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah. Sure. No. Mm-hmm. Confidence is a big issue, obviously. Mm-hmm. She's been playing matchmaker this entire time. Okay. Has the resolve to put in the effort. It won't take much. As soon as he sees you and you say that, he won't be able to hold back at that point. There's no way he'd be able to call it off. Oh, hey. You have another talk here? Hmm. Have another moment, okay. Hmm. Okay. Okay. Guessing the age gap's a big one, obviously. How you used to be? Okay. Obviously, Dad's words getting to him. He's getting so worried about what might be. Hmm. And the response is... Oh, yeah, he is. Holy shit. Okay. That is very true. You string her along for 6 months like that and then dump her as soon as she gets interested in you? Like, come on. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's love. Mm-hmm. It all comes back to effort again. Yeah, you need it. Hmm. Okay. What even is it? I don't actually know what that is. Someone let me know what they were just offered them. If there's like, I'm sure there's like meaning behind it, but I don't know what that is. Gotta let her do it herself. Hmm. Dad? Mm-hmm. Doesn't say anything, but I think his little chat with Ichika. Okay. I think his little chat with Ichika has definitely softened his approach, but I think he still has and every right to be worried in this instance. I think he has every right to be worried as a father like that. Here's no situation. Oh, hello. Is it actually him? I mean, almost certainly yes, but can you do it? KD playing very early into the episode. Disappear. There he is. Here we go. And fell, of course. Okay. Hmm. Hmm. Mm-hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. They were. Mm-hmm. On the verge. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Despite all that. Went in immediately. Wow. Did not expect that. Yep. Yeah, doing this all out in public as well. That's a different type of resolve and effort you need for something like this. Mm-hmm. Wait until I'm an adult. Mm-hmm. Yep. Not something you should admit to. Yep. Yeah. But I was about to have one last conversation, maybe. Okay. Mm-hmm. Mother listening in. will he say? Nothing? Doesn't say anything, okay. Like father, like son. Mm-hmm. Poor Tamaru. We're gonna see Arrietty in the end here as well. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's that. Okay. Round of applause. Small round of applause for that. Good ending. I think overall a good ending. Somehow gotta grade that at the end of the season as well. I don't know how I'm gonna manage that. Yeah, all in all, I will say a good ending. I think it kind of worked out as we kind of expected. Like, as soon as they started removing potential other candidates, such as Tamaru and Arrietty, I think we all knew that this was going to be the direction they ended up going. I think a surprise to a lot of us as well, because normally in this type of show, this is not the predominant main choice that ends up happening. Yes, they're the two mains, but even in that case, it's just such a different situation that it doesn't normally end up working out that way. So the fact that it has is genuinely surprising. Again, this show will always, and I mean always, just because of what it is, have its detractors for it's him grooming her, which it just isn't. I mean, think about the context of which every event that happened between them, think of the character intent, and then you can see it's not grooming. Like, I think grooming kind of has to have intent behind it, right? What is the definition of grooming? Grooming definition. Let's just see what it actually is listed as. The action by a paedophile preparing a child for a meeting, especially via an internet traveling, with the intent of committing a sexual offense. He has absolutely no intention of committing a sexual offense against her. Like, sexual intention never crossed any single bit of this show. Like, there was barely any ecchi. Like, was there any ecchi in this show? Like, full stop. I can't remember any. And for a Japanese anime, romance anime, that is uncommon. To have a rom-com without any ecchi whatsoever. Not even a brief little hint of it. And the fact that the main story didn't revolve around any of that means that I just can't see this being treated as grooming. Because in this instance, I just if you equate this to grooming, it means that no one that is older than you can necessarily... Because relationships are all about probing someone, to an extent. You have to push the boundaries to get a response. Because if you never ask someone anything, and try and find out where the level is, you're never going to get a response, right? So it's like, you have to ask the question, see how the other person feels, and then if they immediately dismiss you, then you obviously know you're in the wrong. In this instance. You can't just set a blanket rule of like, okay, this is wrong no matter what, because it just isn't. That's not how people function. That people come in such a variety of ways that you can never know. And it's the responsibility of the show to show what actually is happening. And if you're unable to see what's happening in this show, you need to look at the show again and properly pay attention to it, because it's giving you so many context hints of what's going on. Yes, she found him creepy in the beginning. But I think that's true of some people in relationships as well. You might not immediately think that's the person that I'm going to fall in love with. This is obviously an exaggerated form because it's media and anime. That's the point. It has to be slightly exaggerated because normal stories don't sell. That's why fantasy genre exists. That's why these dramas exist. Like, they always overinflate what's going on and make it seem so much grander than it actually is because that's interesting. That's why we watch it. So we like things that are spectacular, right? If you're just watching someone else's life, why would you bother watching that? You've got your own life. You watch that, like, all your life. So why would you want to watch someone else's? Unless it's exciting or dramatic or something like that, right? But all the way through this, Ryo pushed boundaries. Fair enough. But once he pushed a boundary and got denied, he didn't push that same boundary again, did he? Realistically. And to be fair to Ichika, she never properly said no to anything. Well, she did say no to things that he did. But she never was outright like, leave me the fuck alone or anything. Maybe, I'm sure the response to that the people who would call this grooming would say, oh, but she's just a kid, she wouldn't know how to say no. And it's like, if you're 17 years old and you don't know how to say no to someone who is advancing on you in that situation, something's definitely wrong. And I know I've heard many critiques of how maybe Japanese society as a whole necessarily kind of holds itself, that saying no like that out of politeness, I've heard many ways that it's like, well, it's hard for people to say no. I get that, but I don't buy that as like, oh, it's like, oh, she couldn't say no. I don't buy things like that. You can say no, it just requires the attitude to be able to do it. But like I said, I cannot see this as grooming because by definition, grooming requires a sexual intention. There was never any sexual intention of this. Like, he's not thinking of that in the slightest. He's wanting to protect her. Protect her and make her happy. Isn't that what being in love is? You want to protect that person, you want to make them happy, you want to make sure they're okay, you want to look after them. Like, that's just called being a loving partner. Like, yeah, if you really want to look for examples of grooming, go check out other romance animes that have potential age gaps, or not even potential age gaps, and just look at how ecchi-filled they are, and then come tell me that this one's the grooming show. Like, for real? Like, for real? You're gonna go after this one? Like, come on. Like, people who go after this for grooming have very little concept of what Japanese animation is capable of. Let's just put it that way. But yeah, overall, I really do appreciate this show. It is a massive, massive shame, and this is the one thing I'll say about this show that disappointed me. I don't know what the circumstances around it were, and I don't know if it was COVID related, if it was because of restrictions, or if it was just a mistake. But the audio for this show was not handled well. It just wasn't. Voice levels were always low. The recording of the VAs was always just terrible, honestly. It's a big shame because I feel like the performances that we got were actually really good. So to Toshiyuki Toenaga, it was a good performance. Like, it genuinely is. I've heard him before in other shows, right? Yeah, he was in Snow White with the Red Hair. He was in A Silent Voice. I remember that character. He was in Gamers. So I have heard his voice acting before, and he is decently talented. And I think delivered a good performance when you can hear him. I just think whatever recording setup he had, whether this is a home setup that he had to do because of COVID, or whatever studio setup he was given for this show, just ultimately let him down a bit. Which is, like I said, a shame. And it was primarily his performance that ended up being that way. Some of the others obviously had it as well, but his was the most poorly affected by it, and that's a shame because you want your male lead to have the best possible equipment and recording possible, but yeah, it is what it is. I would like to have heard it in its full glory, but sometimes you just don't get a choice sometimes, and it's just an unfortunate thing. But all in all, wasn't the best looking show, wasn't the best sounding show, but the story and characters it built were well handled, respectful, I think realistic to a point of what they should have been. Obviously over-dramatized in some aspects, because this is anime, they have to be over-dramatized somewhere. But all in all, I think the people who hate on this show are going at it from a wrong angle. There's plenty of things to critique about this show. The grooming aspect, I think, is a very weak one that you just latch onto because you're so conditioned that age gap relationships that involve a student have to be bad. And because you're so dead set on that idea, you can't see when there are good or bad examples of it. And that is dangerous to think. You should never get so set in a way that, like, they're always good, always bad. You have to see the spectrum of it. And in this instance, it was portrayed as a wholesome manner. If you want to see non-wholesome manners of these types of relationships, I mean, Higehiro, that we're literally just about to go watch, has plenty of examples of what bad interactions between adults and high school girls look like. Like, you've got the comparison right there. You seriously going to tell me this is on the same par as that? Like, come on. Please. Anyway, rant over, show over. Still a great time. Very much enjoyed that. Like I said, I would like a season 2. Well, no, actually, I take that back. I don't want a season 2. And I'll say why. Because I think that was a neat conclusion that worked very well. I don't think we need more. I don't think there will be more because the source material is finished already. But I don't think you need more with this because then it just devolves into a simple slice of life. And if he is waiting for her to reach adulthood, then it just becomes a standard slice of life romance. There's no tension. There's no reason to go back to recurring characters or anything like that. The only thing I would like is maybe a little bit more for Rio. I think she deserved a little more out of that because through all that, she didn't actually have any romance candidate for herself. She was doing it all for her brother and her best friend. She deserves something out of that. I could see in the future maybe her and Tamaru kind of getting to know each other a bit more and maybe getting together eventually. But I don't think that's likely. But of all the things, I would like to that have be expanded upon in the future, maybe. Or just like a little hint to say, hey, that could be a direction that it would have went. But anyway, that's going to do it for today, guys. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this series. Leave a like if you did, as well as your comments what you thought of both this finale and the series as a whole now that you've completed it. How it compares to other rom-coms, how it compares to the rest of the season, whether it's like one of your favorites of the season, least favorites of the season, things like that. There will be a community tab poll up later that you can vote on to say whether this show was above or below your expectations or what you expected from it. Yeah, as per usual, don't forget to subscribe as well to see other Spring 2021 shows that are going on right now. Like I said, this is the second show to finish this season, and we're not going to finish another show until Sunday, actually, right? Yeah, we don't finish another show till Sunday, in which we finish both Vivy and 86, and then from that week on, we're going to be finishing a lot more shows, such as Dragon Ghost House Hunting. We'll probably be finishing, yeah, Dragon Ghost House Hunting, and then a week after that will be like Slime Diaries and Saint and all that good stuff. So, thank you for watching. Till next time, see you guys later.